Every morning, we wake up and step into a performance. We open our eyes, and before we even realize it, we are already putting on the mask, the smile we wear, the opinions we repeat, the version of ourselves we offer to the world, curated, polished, safe. We post, we scroll, we compare, we imitate. But deep down in a quiet corner of our psyche, something whispers, "This isn't me." Carl Jung once wrote that every person carries a persona, a social mask crafted to meet the demands of society. It's not inherently false. It's necessary. Without it, we couldn't survive among others. But the danger comes when we forget that the mask is not the face. In the mirror of society, we learn to see ourselves not as who we are, but as who we're supposed to be. We measure our worth through likes, validation, approval. And in that reflection, our authentic self begins to fade like smoke. Jung warned that the more we identify with the persona, the further we drift from the self, that vast, mysterious totality of our being. And when the mask becomes everything, the soul suffocates behind it. In this video, we're going to journey into Jung's timeless warning, a message more relevant now than ever before, that the greatest danger in modern life is not losing control, but losing yourself. You'll see how we build a world with persona rules, where authenticity is replaced by performance, where our shadows are repressed until they erupt in anxiety, burnout, and meaninglessness. And together, we'll learn how to reclaim what Jung called individuation, the art of becoming whole again. So take a breath, step out of the noise, and look deeper into the mirror. What you'll find may not be pretty, but it will be real. Jung believed that the persona, our social mask, was born the moment we stepped into society. As children, we learn quickly what earns approval and what invites rejection. We discover which emotions are acceptable, which dreams are realistic, and which sides of ourselves must be hidden to belong. Slowly, the authentic self fractures. A part of us goes underground, the wild, creative, emotional core, while another part learns to perform to please, to fit in. That performer is a persona. It is a survival strategy, our psychological armor. But like armor, it restricts movement. It keeps us safe and trapped. In modern life, the persona has evolved into something industrial. It's not just a mask we wear at work or in relationships. It's a digital avatar, a version of ourselves optimized for visibility. We call it a brand, a profile, a feed. Each post, each opinion, each selfie adds another layer of polish, until the mask shines brighter than the soul behind it. But Jung's insight cuts deep. The persona is that which one is not oneself, but which one appears to be. This means that every time we live for the image, we die a little inside. We trade authenticity for acceptance and call it progress. Look around. Influencers preaching authenticity while filtering their every flaw. Executives smiling through exhaustion. Students shaping identities to match trends. Even our emotions are curated. Sadness must be aesthetic. Happiness must be shareable. The persona has become our collective religion, a faith built on performance. Jung warned that over-identification with the persona leads to psychic inflation, a false sense of self built on social expectation. The moment we believe the mask is who we are, the unconscious begins to rebel. Anxiety, depression, and emptiness aren't random illnesses. They are signals from the self, crying out from beneath the persona's weight. To live only through persona is to live half alive. To reclaim the self, we must first have the courage to take off the mask, even if the world no longer recognizes what it sees. When you remove the mask, what you find first is not peace, but darkness. Jung called it the shadow. Everything we reject, deny, and hide from the world and from ourselves. It contains our forbidden emotions, our unacknowledged desires, our shame, our rage, our potential. We exile these parts because they threaten our persona. We say, I'm not angry, I'm not jealous, I'm not weak. But repression doesn't erase, it only buries. The shadow lives on, shaping our thoughts, our relationships, our politics, even our dreams. It leaks out in projections. The faults we despise in others are often the ones we refuse to face within ourselves. In society's mirror, we see enemies everywhere, people who trigger us, offend us, challenge our identity. But Jung would say, these reflections reveal more about you than about them. The modern world has no patience for shadow. We are expected to be endlessly positive, endlessly productive, endlessly agreeable. But wholeness demands contradiction. The light of consciousness only shines when it illuminates darkness. To integrate the shadow is not to glorify it, but to make peace with it. To say, yes, this too is me. When we own our darkness, it no longer controls us. We stop projecting it onto others. We stop chasing perfection and begin cultivating authenticity. The tragedy of our time is that the mirror of society reflects only half of who we are. It shows the curated light, never the necessary dark. But without the dark, there is no depth, only surface. And without depth, the soul starves. Jung believed that beneath all personal experience lies something vast and ancient, the collective unconscious, a realm of inherited symbols, myths, and archetypes shared by all humanity. This is why certain images, the hero, the mother, the trickster, the shadow, appear in every culture, every story, every dream. They are the universal patterns of the psyche. But modern society has forgotten its myths. In chasing innovation, we've exiled imagination. We scroll endlessly, yet dream rarely. We think we are free, but we are caught in invisible patterns we no longer recognize. Jung warned that when a culture loses contact with its symbols, it becomes psychologically unstable. We see this today. Confusion of identity, epidemics of loneliness, the worship of technology as a new god. The collective unconscious once guided us through rituals, stories, and spiritual frameworks. Now, algorithms have taken its place, predicting our desires, shaping our attention, defining our worth. We have replaced archetypes with aesthetics, meaning with metrics, myth with marketing. But beneath all this noise, the psyche still speaks. Through dreams, art, and moments of silence, the self still tries to reach us, whispering, "Remember who you are." To hear it, we must turn away from the mirror of society and descend inward into the ancient theater of the mind. The modern self is fragmented, pulled apart by competing roles and digital selves. We are professionals, friends, consumers, brands, and performers all at once. Jung would say we have become a plurality of masks without a center. And the more roles we play, the harder it becomes to answer the simplest question: who am I? This fragmentation breeds exhaustion. We no longer rest. We switch between performances. Even solitude has become content. Even rest has become self-optimization. The true self, the self Jung spoke of, is not a product to be improved. It is a living organism that grows through contradiction, pain, and renewal. But our culture fears stillness because stillness reveals emptiness. So we keep performing, posting, consuming, anything to avoid meeting the silence within. The mirror of society keeps us distracted with reflections. It tells us who to be, what to want, and how to appear. But Jung's message was radical. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. To awaken is to step away from the mirror, to stop performing and start perceiving. It is not easy. The moment you turn inward, you face the chaos you've avoided. But that chaos is sacred. It's the raw material of transformation. The fragment itself can only heal through integration, by acknowledging every part of the psyche, even the ones the world rejects. For Jung, the goal of life is not happiness, but wholeness. He called the process individuation, the lifelong journey of integrating the conscious and unconscious, the persona and shadow, the human and divine within. Individuation is not about perfection. It's about authenticity. It's not about becoming special. It's about becoming real. It requires courage, the courage to disappoint others, to be misunderstood, to follow your inner truth even when it costs you belonging. In a world obsessed with images, individuation feels like rebellion. But Jung would remind us, the soul's growth always begins in solitude. When you face your shadow, you stop judging others. When you stop identifying with a persona, you stop fearing rejection. When you integrate your darkness, you discover compassion for yourself and for the world. The individuated person is not flawless. They are whole. And wholeness shines in a way no filter can imitate. Jung warned that a society that worships appearances will eventually lose its soul. He called this the mass mind, a collective state where individuals think, feel, and desire according to external patterns. Today, the mirror of society has become literal. Screens reflecting curated versions of humanity back at itself. We compare, compete, and conform in real time. The result? A psychological epidemic. People who appear full but feel hollow. We mistake attention for love, performance for a purpose, validation for meaning. But the self cannot be found in reflections. It can only be discovered in introspection. Jung foresaw this danger, that the more technologically advanced we become, the deeper our spiritual poverty will grow, unless we learn to turn inward again. The task of the modern human is not to abandon society, but to live within it without losing the self, to use the mirror consciously, not worship it, to engage with the world while remaining rooted in the depths of the psyche. This is not withdrawal, it is awakening. When you know who you are beneath the mask, no reflection can enslave you. So now, as you stare into your own reflection, in the screen, in the mirror, in the eyes of others, ask yourself, who is looking back? Is it you, or is it the version of you that society built? Jung believed that healing begins when we reclaim the fragments we've disowned, when we stop trying to be liked and start trying to be real. In doing so, we rediscover the mystery that society cannot define, the self that is timeless, infinite, whole. The mirror society will always tempt you to perform, but mirrors show only surfaces. The truth lives beneath. So take time to disconnect, to dream, to feel, to listen, not to the world, but to the quiet voice within. Because the moment you remember who you are beneath the masks, you don't just escape illusion, you awaken to life. This has been the hidden self. If this journey spoke to something inside you, subscribe, and continue walking with us through the shadows, where truth and transformation begin.